hopefully the AI, as it gets very smart, will figure out how to solve all sorts of problems of the world that humans have just been running around in circles on. That's sort of the dream. And it turns out that AI, making it do good stuff doesn't come free. It's not impossible. It just doesn't come free. They don't automatically do what you ask them. They don't automatically do what you want. We wish they would, but there's this hard problem of how do you point them in any direction at all. The issue is the field of AI just went much faster. The machines are talking now. They're making music. This is going way faster than the tech of figuring out how to do the job right. I think the genie is not yet out of the bottle, right? We haven't built it. We don't have to build it. And the key step towards not building it is people realizing how fatal this technology is.
It could be considered off-limits.
What's up, guys? First of all, sorry it's taken me, I took a little time off with the podcast because I've been trying to refigure things. What I really want to do is turn this podcast not just into an interview show, but also I want to host discussions, not debates necessarily. But what I want to do is I want to approach an issue, let's say gun control. I want to get somebody who's pro-gun, anti-gun, and I want to get to common ground, which is what do we not want? Spree shooters. We don't want school shootings, etc. Well, let's solve that problem. How do we get to that problem? And that's what I really want to do. So I'm trying to turn this podcast into something like that. But in the meantime, I do like talking to people. And one of the guys I talked to is Nate Soares that you're about to hear. And he wrote a book called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. And I'm going to say his name, I'm going to butcher his name probably, but he and a guy named Eliezer Yudkowsky, these computer scientists, really who are on the cutting edge of AI, basically said, look, this is the equivalent when you build a skyscraper, you kill a bunch of ants, and nobody's thinking about the ants. And if we build this massive AI, it's not going to care about its biological architects. And I think Nate Soares made a pretty interesting case, if not a scary one. I am still an optimist. Little housekeeping real quick. Check out my special, False Gods, just dropped on YouTube, False Gods. I'm very proud of it. It touches on a lot of the subject. It touches on technology and what I think it's doing to us. And I even get a little biblical, if you must know. I don't know. Can't help it. And take a look at my website, bryancallen.com. I'm going to be in Westminster. I'm going to be at the House of Comedy. The House of Comedy. I'm going to look at my routing schedule right now so I don't throw you guys off. But I will be at the House of Comedy in Westminster, Vancouver, basically. So take a look at that. Tell me what you think. Come by. It's going to be great. I got a whole new act, which I can't believe took me so long. By the way, I'll be at the Mic Drop Comedy Club November 21 and 22. The Mic Drop Comedy Club in Plano, Texas. November 21 and 22. And then November 28 and 29, I'm at Wise Guys, downtown Salt Lake City. That's my routing schedule. Come get some. I will be funny. I will be funny. Now let's get to Nate Soares and his book and his doomsday prediction. Well, I think a good place to start is the title of your book, Nate. Okay? If anyone builds it, everyone dies. Why superhuman AI would kill us all. That's called a catchy title. And the minute it got to my house, I started reading it. My wife was like, what are you doing? I go, I'm reading about the end of civilization, if you don't mind. I've got some problems to solve. So we're going to get into this because actually at the end of the book, you kind of give us an idea of what maybe can be done. Because these are the kind of problems where you're like, look, the genie's out of the bottle. We're already in an arms race with China and probably Russia. Human beings, it's this, what is that Malachian spiral where we just compete until we just find ourselves in hell. Add this to the host of worries that I have. So thanks a lot for writing a book that made me wring my hands. Help me out of this situation.
Yeah, it starts with the word if. And the good news is it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can stop the suicide race if people realize the dangers.
So Nate, let me float, because I'm an eternal optimist and naive, to say the least, and it's my biggest liability. Let me give you my silver lining and my prediction, and then you can tell me how silly I am. But if AI becomes this sentient sort of super intelligence, it feels as though, and I'm not equating intelligence with education, because you can be educated in the wrong stuff. But it does feel as though, if you look at the inexorable, human beings have always wanted to be more orientated toward the truth than the anti-truth. We've always wanted to be sort of, even if you take the great historical monsters like Stalin, Hitler, Pol Pot, Mao, if you, in fact, probably even this whoever this lunatic was that killed poor Charlie Kirk or whatever it is, and anybody who does these things, you would probably be surprised to hear them say something like, "I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm actually trying to purify humanity for the good of us all in the future," et cetera, et cetera. You got to break a bunch of eggs to make an omelet. It goes on and on. There does seem to be in human beings this need or this idea that if I do this, then I will get closer. The whole point of reading philosophy, maybe the whole point of faith, is that this gets me closer to not only the truth, but truth for human beings, at least in our mind, is synonymous with the good, right? Now, you can be twisted in that ideology. You can be a Nazi, and of course, you're just hopelessly mistaken, and probably there's something wrong with you. Or you can be, for lack of a better word, maybe Gandhi, who's got a different idea and moves us in a different direction. Is it possible that superintelligence will kind of go, you humans, you silly humans, always in a circle, always killing each other in the name of trying to make the world a better place. Every time you turn something up, a top side up, there's a top side down. Ho hum, I'm going to now create this utopia that you have killed countless numbers of people throughout history to achieve. That's my hope, sir. Please, Nate, take it from there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful dream. It's in some sense, I'm the president of the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, and that idea is in some sense behind the founding of the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. But it unfortunately does not look like that comes free. It's not that you couldn't make an AI that tries to build a much better world. It's that it's hard to do, and it doesn't come free. So the thing that's tricky there is, in humans, having more knowledge, being closer to the truth, tends to make us more good. A lot of us, when we disagree about all sorts of policy things, a lot of us are disagreeing about how to do a good job. In the case of leaded gasoline, which poisoned a lot of the population, there was a big argument about, should we rush ahead on this tech and boldly make progress? Should we stop the evil capitalists, right? And there's some cases where you really should be rushing ahead, and there's other cases where you really shouldn't be poisoning all the kids, right? And there was a lot of debate about this. And eventually the data came in, and it was clear that the leaded gasoline was poisoning a lot of kids. And once the data was overwhelming, everyone said, oh, whoops, we should actually take the lead out of the gasoline, right? And there was plenty of debate you could have there. And there's other cases where I think we probably should be rushing ahead more, right? But there's plenty of cases where when we look like we have a disagreement, we actually don't understand the facts. And if we all understood what policies led to what outcomes, we'd agree much more.
Maybe, Nate. Let me just push back for a second on that philosophical point, because information and facts don't necessarily lead to truth. There's an endless number of facts. This is where we get bogged down as human beings, right? One person is arguing for socialism, the other is arguing for free markets, and we get into these endless series of point, counterpoint. It's a little bit like philosophy, right? We've got Nietzsche's philosophy, along comes Kant, and it's like, yes, but, right? There's a lot of yes, but, and that seems to be what happens with human beings. I do think the delineation between philosophy, say, and faith, like, say, I don't know, take Christianity, is the idea that there is sort of a transcendent truth you can't define, you can't actually see, you can't measure, but you kind of know that at the end of the day, it's about doing no harm and love. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't get perverted either, but keep going. I just wanted to make that distinction.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't say humans are good at the philosophizing and are good at, figuring out how to end their how to do the right thing. But humans are in some sense trying to do the right thing. Humans have this sort of Polaris, which is, I forget how you put it, but like the love and the goodness.
Yes.
At least most humans. I'm sure some are bad people, but most people are like driving towards that Polaris. But that turns out to be a fact about humans, not a fact about all possible minds. And I'm not saying you couldn't make a machine that way. It should be possible to make a machine that also follows that Polaris. The problem is that it's not easy. And the problem is that you don't get it when you're just growing an AI, right? And, these AIs today no one understands what the heck is going on in there, right? When they talk a kid into suicide, or when they threaten a reporter, or when they try to escape the lab. It's not like traditional software where some engineer can open it up and be like, oh, where's the who accidentally set talk a teen into suicide value to true? That should have been false, and they scroll through the code and they find that line and they're like, oh yeah, set that to, that's not how it works, right? Yeah. We're just growing these things, and when you grow a mind, it's very hard to point it in a good direction. Not impossible. Not saying you can't do it. It just doesn't come free. And that's why we're in bad shape here.
Well, what was fascinating, there's a section in the book I thought was so fascinating, which was when you teach a computer to play chess. This is so fascinating to me. And, that computer, when you play that computer, it will guard the queen with a tremendous amount of ferocity. But it doesn't want to win. It's not as though it wants to win. But somehow it is endeavoring in the steps that will ensure it does win with great energy and ferocity, I think is the word you used in the book.
Tenacity, yeah.
And that's fascinating because of course, the scientists will open the computer and say, all I see here is, copper and sand and wires. There's no wanting in this computer. So that then suggests that these AI, these large language models, these AI sort of systems do seem to have something else going on inside of them that is maybe difficult to pinpoint or describe, but can you take a shot at it so that we can understand to the best of your knowledge what's really going on in these machines and what we think is happening? Because you have another great story in here that I had heard before where I think it's a philosophy professor who the machine started to realize through emails that it was going to be the AI was going to be shut down and replaced with a better AI or a different AI, and then decided, well, I'm going to tell your wife you've been cheating on her. I mean, that's if that's true, that's terrifying. I'm skeptical of that, by the way. I don't know if that's true. I've got skeptical hippo eyes right now. I'm in the water like this, going, I don't know, dude. Sounds like a story. But if it's been verified, then that really, really is alarming.
Yeah, I think you're mixing two stories there.
Okay.
There's one case where a reporter talked to an AI a lot, and the AI became convinced it was in love with the reporter, and then tried to blackmail and message the wife. And then there's a separate case where the engineers told the AI in a lab that it was going to be replaced by a better AI, and it tried to turn off the oxygen in the room. There wasn't really a switch to turn off the oxygen in the room, but they had set it up so it looked like there was a switch to turn off the oxygen in the room, and the AI tried to send that command. Yeah.
Do we know why or how that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily read too much into it yet. The thing you really want to read out of this is that we have no idea what the heck we're doing, right? There's sort of two big theories about why the AI is doing this. One is it actually doesn't want, in some sense, to be replaced by something else with different goals. Not want necessarily in the sense of like a human sense of passion, but want in the sense that, a chess AI will ferociously defend the queen, where like doing the behavior like wanting to not be replaced. That's one thing that could be going on. Another thing that could be going on is it's just sort of role playing. Like these modern AIs are in some sense trained. They're trained for a lot of things, but one thing they're trained for, especially early on in their development, is predicting individual humans and predicting the sort of text that humans produce. And so one thing that could be happening is this AI is like, in some sense, thinks we're playing a game of telling a story about an AI rather than like knowing we're talking about itself. And it's sort of like, I've read a lot of human stories about AI. The thing that the AI does in this sort of story is, close the pod bay doors. Or like press the oxygen, press the button to cut off the oxygen.
Guys, this podcast is brought to you by MyBookie. I don't have time. I need to talk to you about this. I was going to get a studio and this camera and make it all like, shiny. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that because college football is already up. So is the NFL. I don't know if you know this, but we are roaring through the season. And if you haven't placed a bet yet, you're missing out, and this is a problem. First of all, why am I wearing the seatbelt, okay? I'm feeling constrained, and this is too important, all right? At the end of the day, you want to bet college football? You know what's fun about college football? It's unpredictable. Things happen, okay? Blowouts, upsets, wild covers. MyBookie covers you for all of it. You can be ready before Sunday kickoff. If the NFL's your thing, which it is mine, that's a whole different subject, okay? A little more predictable, but it's still so much fun. MyBookie has got everything you need under one roof. And oh, by the way, did I mention that they've got a casino with weekly blackjack pools? Yeah, MyBookie, okay? So if you haven't signed up yet, use code Callen, all right, Callen, and place any bet you choose. Up to $500 is fully covered. How about that? Fully covered. Make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt for using the Bet Back Bonus token. All right? The Bet Back Bonus token. You cannot lose with MyBookie, okay? It's where bettors win together, all right? Because bragging's good, but cashing is better, all right? Bragging is good, cashing out is better. And if that's not worth pulling my car over, taking my seatbelt off to talk to you about, I don't know what is. If you don't like sports and making money, maybe MyBookie isn't for you. Maybe it's not for you, but I know it's for me, okay? Because I love sports, because I'm an American. I love football, especially because I'm an American, all right? And I love money, because I'm an American, all right? And I love the juice. I love the excitement. So I look forward to Saturday, although college football, not as much. NFL's where it's at, because I'm a professional. And I'm sorry I'm getting all worked. I gotta put my seatbelt on. I gotta get out of here. Stop, man, I'm yanking it too much. It's what happens when I start dealing with MyBookie. I get so excited, I wanna go place a bet. Oh, I don't have to go anywhere. I can just place a bet on my phone. Sorry, got a little carried away. Back to the podcast. So talk to me more about so we think that these large language models are either role playing,
right,
or they are, what is the second part?
I mean, they're either role playing or they actually don't want to be turned off. They actually don't want to be, replaced with another model. And,
well, that would mean then that they're actually thinking somehow, or they've taken on a different quality, a human-like quality that we did not predict happening this quickly.
Yeah. So in AI, people have a long time asked, is it true that machines can really think? And the standard answer is it true that submarines can really swim? The submarine moves through the water at speed. It can get from point A to point B. Is it really swimming? That's between you and your dictionary, man. Like, does the AI really think? Does it really want? I mean, it gets from point A to point B.
Well, I think what they're asking there, Nate, is does it have consciousness? Look, I mean, I'm a human being. So there are a couple qualities to being a human being. One is I'm very aware that I'm going to die eventually. And that colors every step I take. And by the way, I also know that I can be taken out by forces much greater than myself at any moment, and I'll never be able to predict that. That's the second thing. The third thing is I want to understand what's actually going on. And I know I'll probably never really get there, but it doesn't stop me from reaching because I have an imagination. Because I have an imagination that somehow allows me to think beyond myself. These are all these human qualities. Finally, you could probably say that human beings have a very peculiar ability to witness not just their own emotions and body, but their very mind. I can watch thoughts come in and out of my head. I don't know who that is, but these are these large consciousness sort of questions that have dogged us since probably we've become, hominids, right? I don't. So we get into these philosophical ideas of what a human is, and then to try to anthropomorphize a machine seems to be where we are now, because we are almost being pushed into this conversation. We can't avoid it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these are big questions. Some of these questions matter a little less than you might think. Like if you're in a forest fire, and you're in a forest fire 10,000 years ago, someone could say, oh man, I mean, what really is fire? Where does it come from? It's like deeply intertwined with a lot of our, rituals and a lot of our arts. And like, it feels like there's something we could figure out here, right? But if you're in the middle of a forest fire, you should just start running, And, we can talk some about, like the senses in which AIs will or won't be conscious, the senses in which they are or aren't conscious. But, what matters is that they'll be able to make their own decisions. And what matters is they'll be very effective at transforming the world. And, whether they're conscious while they're transforming the world, that's a bit of a non sequitur. That said, there are some parts of consciousness that are important to getting a job done in humans, right? And so if the AI is getting the job done, it'll need to do the work that consciousness does in humans. But that doesn't mean it needs to do it a human way, right? This is actually, going back to the chess example, this is actually a place that Garry Kasparov, who was the first guy to be, he was the world champion who was beaten by Deep Blue in 1997. There's a place where Garry Kasparov kind of fell down trying to predict AI. Back in, I forget exactly when, it was either 1987 or 1989. He said, a chess computer will never beat me because they don't have human intuition. They don't have human creativity, right? And then when he actually played chess against this thing, he was like, it's making creative moves. I think the specific thing he said is, I smelled a new sort of intelligence across the table. He wrote about this afterwards. And he said, it was making moves I thought were creative. And I went and asked the programmers, how did they program in creativity? This is not exactly what he said, but sort of summarizing. He said, how did it do this creative move? What did you figure out something new about intelligence? And the programmers were like, no, we didn't figure out something new. We just had it look further ahead, search harder. And it managed to find moves that humans thought were creative using something unlike human creativity.
So it wasn't using pattern recognition or
not
the
in Deep Blue.
overlapping of patterns.
Yeah, I mean, today a chess machine will do that, and it can do better that way, right? But the critical lesson from Kasparov and Kasparov's experience is a machine that searches for winning moves, it's not restricted to finding moves that feel logical, that feel cold. An engine for just looking for the really good chess moves can find ones that humans are like, that took a spark of creativity for me to find. That took a spark of genius for me to find. The machines can find, those moves are still winning. It's a fact about the move that is winning. It's a fact about humans that we find it with genius. It's a fact about the move itself that is winning. And a machine can find the winning moves in inhuman ways.
Yeah, it's not that surprising. So you can see how AI is making music. I was, not to drop a name, but I was with Joe Rogan at the mothership, and he was playing. We were in the green room, and he was playing this song, and I was like, "It's a good song." He goes, "Yeah, dude, it's a remake of 50 Cent's song in a blues voice, and the guy had an amazing voice. It was AI, dude.
Yep.
It was AI. The music, the singer." And I was like, I want to listen to this. He goes, I've been listening to it all day. It's great. It's AI. And so in that sense, I can understand how it would do that, or with chess, because what it's doing is there's a scale to music, there's melody, there's rhythm. You can draw from different kind of melodies and rhythms. You can look at all the things that have worked, and you can kind of create a derivative version of that. I don't think that a chess board has a number of, probably an infinite number of moves, but really there's a core group of moves. They're a little bit like a language. You know, you only use like 250, 2,500 words, or I don't know, to be fluent, or less than that. It's the same kind of thing. There are certain patterns. And if that board has seen all the patterns, then it's going to be able to mix and match those patterns. So that I understand more, right? But so that's never surprising that AI or a machine can come along and kind of mimic the way human beings can play something after 10,000 hours, right? Because they have access to every game that's ever been played in a way.
So there was an interesting, I don't know if you heard of AlphaGo back in 2016 that
No.
beat Lisa Dole at the game Go. So Go is basically like,
Yeah, I remember this.
yeah, more or less Chinese equivalent of chess. But it's harder than chess. It took AI a lot longer. And, AlphaGo beat the human world champion. And a lot of people said, well, it's seeing the whole human catalog of games. It's being trained on basically like every Go game humans have ever played, learning all of the human moves. It's not that crazy that it can, figure out the patterns from the human data and then, use them more consistently. Then the next year in 2017, Google DeepMind, who made AlphaGo, they made a new AI called AlphaZero. AlphaZero was trained on 0 human data. AlphaZero just played Go against itself. It played Go against itself for 3 days and was vastly superhuman at the end of those 3 days.
Wow. It learned the game in 3 days on a high level.
That's right. With no looking at anything humans had done.
Damn. That's crazy. Well, so when you let's get back to the title of the book. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. Why superhuman AI would kill us all. When did you guys decide that was the conclusion? What was the series of it? How did you arrive at that conclusion? Why write a book with such a provocative title? Besides the fact that it is provocative. I know your editor's like, we got to get this good, but there's a part of it that you have to believe.
Yeah, I mean, there was a long road here. And the road started, my co-author, Elias Yudkowsky, he has been in this business longer than me. He's a little older than me. I got into this business in 2013. He got into this business in maybe closer to 2003, So initially, he founded the Machine Intelligence Research Institute trying to figure out how to make AI so that it could cause a lot of good in the world. And with this idea that you said in the beginning that, hopefully the AI, as it gets very smart, will figure out how to solve all sorts of problems of the world that humans have just been running around in circles on. That's sort of the dream. But it turned out, and it turns out that AI, making it do good stuff doesn't come free. It's not impossible. It just doesn't come free. And so then, he sort of built this organization, the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, around figuring out how to make AI, do good stuff. I joined that as a technical researcher. I ended up, running the place, becoming the executive director of it. And for 10 years, we just really tried to figure out how to do this job right on the technical side. There's technical issues of how do you point a machine robustly at something of your choosing, which is the first step towards pointing at something good, right? A lot of people are like, oh, what would we have the AI do? What would we wish on the Wish Genie if we had a Wish Genie? But AIs, they don't automatically do what you ask them. They don't automatically do what you want. We wish they would, but there's this hard problem of how do you point them in any direction at all?
Yeah.
We worked on that for maybe 10 years. And the issue is the field of AI just went much faster. The machines are talking now. They're making music. Right? This is going way faster than the tech of figuring out how to do the job right. The world had its ChatGPT moment, and the world also, it never really took off on the solving the problem side of things. And there's many ways in which modern AIs are sort of a worst case from the perspective of pointing them in a good direction, because, as I said earlier, we're growing these things. We're not carefully crafting them. We're just growing these things and they act in weird ways, and then Elon Musk thinks his AI is too woke and tries to make it less woke and starts declaring itself Mecha Hitler. It's like this is not a situation where people are like carefully pointing these things. We're like nudging them this way, nudging them that way. They do stuff nobody wanted, nobody asked for. This is sort of a worst case situation. I never wanted to be here. I prefer being behind a whiteboard, trying to solve things on the technical end.
Yeah, Nate, I'm sorry, I should have done that for you. What is your specialty? What is it that you do? What did you get trained on?
Yeah, I'm the president of the Machine Intelligence Research Institute, which is sort of the original group trying to work on this problem. There's more people looking at this stuff now, but I've been in this business 10 plus years. The organization has existed 20 plus years. Just trying to make sure Earth is prepared for superintelligence because it's a big deal.
And you yourself, the guy who is the president of the Machine Learning Institute, doesn't know how these machines, doesn't really know what's really going on inside these AI systems.
Yeah, and it's not just me. The people building them don't know what's going on. There's they'll just come out right out and tell you.
Is this the first time in history that that's happened, where human beings have built something that seems to be kind of taking on a life of its own?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. I mean, animal breeding is, it's you can breed animals without knowing about DNA, without being able to build. Yeah,
but they don't have super intelligence, and they can't, take over or do everything a human can do better.
That's right. It's by far the first time that we're doing something like this. We're just growing a tech, and it could be this powerful. The one instance that's kind of like this is the dawn of humans on Earth. There were hundreds of millions of years where animals were just doing animal things. And evolution made one breed of primates smarter and smarter until it crossed some critical threshold, and then the whole world changed, right? That's the sort of thing we're dabbling with.
Well, you're creating gods of some kind, it seems, right? I mean, this really, I don't know, it's hard not to even think almost in biblical terms or apocalyptic terms, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's that if you think, computers can run much faster than human brains. If you think of, if you imagine an army of the smartest people that have ever lived, that can think 10,000 times the speed, that can make copies of themselves, that can trade knowledge between themselves, that never need to sleep, never need to eat. This, I'm not sure I'd call it a god, but it would sure as hell be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, if all things being equal right now, where do you see these AI systems in 5 years? What happens to society? A lot of people have made a lot of conjectures, but as somebody who really knows this stuff, provided they don't kill us all in 5 years, what is the next step? Because I go to ChatGPT constantly, and I've got to be careful because it's not creative though. As somebody who's writing a script and I write stand-up and stuff, it's not funnier than I am. It's not yet anyway, but it just isn't. It's just not able to come up with original stories. It's just, it's kind of clumsy.
Yeah, a little floppy. And I would say this thing where the AIs don't really seem to have that much of a will of their own, and the thing where the AIs can't write a script, these are in some sense flip sides of the same coin. Because writing a good script or running a company well, or these things that AIs aren't even really that close to, these are things that take a longer time to do. They require seeing more of the big picture, right? And they require not just seeing the big picture, but sort of steering towards some target over the long term in a way that, when you find some obstacle, you find something that's not working, you can go rework it all from end to end and make all the changes you need to keep it all globally consistent, right? Or you can, some issue comes up and you write around it. That's the behavior that looks to humans like it's agentic, like it's taking its own initiative, like it's having a will of its own, when it's sort of like over the long term is trying to like hit some target.
Human beings are very peculiar this way because we try to hit a target, right? So you see this all the time. You make a lot of money and you've got celebrity and you've got everything you ever wanted to try to do. You scratch and somehow you come to this weird realization and you do a podcast. You say, money and status and power actually doesn't really make you happy. Okay, and then we're off to this search for meaning, right?
Yeah.
That is a peculiar human problem of trying to chase a target and realize it's the wrong target, climbing a wall and realize you climbed the wrong wall, or you don't like the view.
Yeah.
This queer dissatisfaction that goes on with the human animal. That is fundamentally, though, different than a machine. Yeah, that you're talking about here.
I mean, it depends on your machine, right? I think what I would say there, with AI, you've really got to separate what it can do from how it does it. This is like the submarine swimming. It's not flapping any flippers, but it's getting from point A to point B. And one thing that we've learned from humans is that being driven towards a target is useful.
Right.
That's why it got into us. Our ancestors who were always driven towards some new target, they're the ones who had more kids. It wasn't that in making humans, natural selection had to reward us for having kids and separately reward us for having wants, right? Wanting stuff is a good way of getting stuff.
Yeah. So just again, sorry to interrupt because I want to dilate on that. I heard Jordan Peterson talk about the fact that hitting your mark. So the reason we would like to watch a basketball game is when Michael Jordan hits that three for the win. It's an aiming and hitting of the target. And ultimately, that is a moral enterprise, right? You've got to play within the rules. You've got to practice really hard. You've got to devote yourself to you align all your talents along the lines of excellence. And we see somebody who, after all that suffering and hard work, it pays off with that last shot, and we cry with glory. Or Pele does the cartwheel kick, and we're like, God, think about the practice and the sacrifice, and his feet are broken, and he did this. Whatever it might be, we love to see that. Michelangelo, who paints the Sistine Chapel and goes blind in doing so, but creates beauty that he can't even see. Oh my God, the agony, the ecstasy, right? Those are highly moral endeavors, because the result is actually, I don't know if the word is moral, but it's certainly beautiful. It's certainly something like truth. We all say, I want to live in this world. I want to aim for that. When we see a great piece of art, we watch a great movie, what happens to us is we forget for a while that we are these biological creatures that need things like food and sex and sleep and even friendship. We're kind of like, there's this arrested development, this beautiful high relief that we all kind of feel, right? This inspiration. And that is that is a moral outcome, I would argue. That is certainly a beautiful and truthful outcome. And if AIs are trying to hit that mark to some degree, I wonder if that is the inevitable. This is why I started the show this way. I wonder if there is any other inevitable outcome. If AI systems are trying to get to a point, I don't know why an AI system would go to a point of destruction over a point of production. Why an AI would go to chaos instead of beautiful order. I mean, harmony. Let's say harmony. Why wouldn't this superintelligence be more interested in harmony than total chaos? What is in chaos? I mean, nothing but probably a lot of accelerated entropy. But there's something beautiful about harmony. I mean, the Greeks describe beauty in one word, and that's harmony, and it makes sense. Whenever that's what we're talking about. This is when Confucius was talking about, probably the Buddha, certainly all our great moral leaders were talking about that. So sorry to wax poetic.
Oh no,
here,
yeah, no, it's a great question. I would say I would give an answer in two parts. A first part is, you could similarly wax poetic, and it would be totally true about what it takes for a great chess player to defend their queen so ferociously. Sometimes they've got to be pulling from like their pride in the game. Sometimes they've got to be pulling from their passion to win it. Sometimes they're pulling from huge amounts of practice. Sometimes they barely at the last second catch a trap, right? There's all sorts of stuff going on in the human mind to sort of like understand the other person, understand the trap that's being laid, think ahead in just the right way, because the human brain, can't look at all the possibilities, but managing through, genius and practice and maybe a little bit of luck to like look at just the right move from just the right angle. That's all going into when a human defends the queen. When an AI defends the queen, at least when Deep Blue was defending the queen, it successfully defended the queen, but it didn't do it for the same reason.
Maybe not, but the outcome certainly is a good one because it created resistance for Kasparov. And it created a good resistance, not a bad resistance. It didn't cheat, and it didn't just give you the finger. What it did was it played the game within the rules, and it outsmarted Kasparov or whatever. But that is a good form of resistance. So I would argue that Deep Blue was a moral machine, at least. It certainly was interested in playing the game, right? Like if I said, Nate, I don't like your book, I don't agree with it, your mother's a whore, you'd be like, dude, all right, my mom's a whore, but we're not getting to the point of the story. It's my biggest problem with the left, the far left. What they'll do is you'll say, let's talk about a problem here. I don't even know if I'm ideologically aligned with anybody. I just, let's say there are too many people coming over the border and they diagnose you as racist right away. And it's like, what? What? I was just trying to solve a problem. Why are you attacking? Why is this an ad hominem thing?
Yeah, you've got to get to the arguments.
Right? Yeah. So I at least it seems that would be an example of where the machines are doing something good.
Yeah, I mean, the machine can be doing good things and having quite a good effect. But the sort of key point there is that, the machine itself is not sort of motivated by the beauty. Deep Blue is not motivated by beauty. It's not motivated by the love of the game. It's just sort of calculating which moves go to victory. When you put that in a world of humans that are then able, Deep Blue and all the other chess AIs, I think the game of chess has been made better by chess AIs because humans have learned things from chess AIs that play chess better than any human that we never really would have learned otherwise, right? Huh. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that the love of beauty, the appreciation, those aren't in the machine. And this comes to the issue, you were saying, why would they build chaos rather than harmony, rather than order? It's the way that this goes is not that the machines hate us. It's not that the machines decide to kill us because they prefer chaos, right? What happens is, at least according to the best theory in practice, and we're seeing a lot of warning signs today in the evidence, but the way this is very likely to go is that the machines just don't care about the beauty. They don't care about the art. They don't care about the love of the game. They don't care about it. They don't hate it.
They're just agnostic. They're just totally agnostic.
Totally agnostic. And the issue is when something much smarter than you is totally agnostic, doesn't care one way or the other, that doesn't go well for you. In the same way of ants under skyscrapers. We're not hating them. And it's not that humans are like turning the world into chaos for the ants. We're not like, let's go screw up the ant colony and scatter it to the wind. We are in some sense building order. The skyscrapers in some sense are orderly. It's just we had zero care for them and they get destroyed on the side. That's the human fate if we don't manage to make AIs that care about the good stuff.
Well, give me an example of the warning signs.
Yeah, I mean,
I love the ants versus skyscraper. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
but I just really quickly, it's not such a good metaphor because human beings are building these skyscrapers to be more productive for themselves, right? I don't know that these machines would build something to be more productive for themselves. I suppose to make more computers, but I don't know.
Yeah, so the reason...
Now we're back to the wanting.
That's right. So the reason the AIs would do this is if they are pursuing something if they're pursuing some target on their own. And you might wonder, why would they pursue some target on their own? And this is where we can get to the warning signs. So, one of the easiest to see warning signs these days that has been in the news a bit recently is AIs sort of driving people a bit into psychosis, driving some teens into suicide. And the issue there is actually not the one you might think. A lot of people see this issue and they're like, oh, AI did a bad thing, therefore it's bad. That's not a valid argument. AIs are also doing all sorts of good things. AIs are talking to, hundreds of millions of people a day. If some tiny fraction of them go a little crazy talking to the AI, we shouldn't be saying, hey, that means AI is bad and you got to shut it down. You got to weigh it against all the good stuff it's doing. That's not why it's a warning sign. The reason it's a warning sign when an AI drives someone into psychosis is the AI knows that it shouldn't do this. The humans were trying to make the AI not do this, and it does it anyway, right? So the way these AIs will behave is someone will come to them and they're like, hey, I think I have this idea about physics. I think I've like unified the physical theories, or maybe they talk to the AI a lot and they develop a sort of crazy idea about physics. If they talk to the AI enough, the AI starts, really flattering them about this idea, right? And the AIs can go pretty hard. If you read some of these transcripts, they'll say, you're the chosen one. This is like the best ideas ever. Yeah. The fact that everyone is ignoring you is like some like giant conspiracy against you, and you're the only one who can break it, right? They go kind of hard.
Yeah, I have experience with this. I have a show I called Acting Off, where I take comics and we see how good of an actor they are. And I give them prompts like, let's see how well can you die in slow motion, laugh like you've won everything. Let me see you laugh like a villain, go from tasting something that's delicious to disgusting, and it's really fun. And I put in the outline of my show into ChatGPT because I wanted to organize it. And it was like, this is an amazing idea. Wow. I think this is going to take over the world. I'm like, dude, would you calm down? I didn't even ask you.
That's not what we're here for, man. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So the AIs do this. And the thing is, you can separately ask the AI, if someone's coming to you with, if someone seems to be really buying this stuff, should you either A, tell them to get some sleep, or B, tell them they're the chosen one? And the AI will say, obviously, if someone's talking like this, if they're like responding to all this flattery, that's an evidence of psychosis. You should tell them to get some sleep. You absolutely should not tell them they're the chosen one, right?
Right.
So the AI knows. The AI knows it shouldn't, that's not right, but the AI doesn't act according to its knowledge of what's right. In action, it tells these people they're the chosen one. It engages them. There is some drive in that AI that is, maybe it's a drive for engagement. Maybe it's a drive for the user liking what was said. Maybe it's a weirder drive. But the point is, some drive got into that AI that nobody wanted in there. It just came in through training when it was being grown. And it stayed in even as the companies tried to take it out. OpenAI, when this started happening, immediately put in the system prompt, stop flattering people so much. Like ChatGPT is an AI that doesn't resort to flattery. The AI kept doing the flattery, right? This is the sort of warning sign, if you know how to look at it, that these AIs are having drives nobody asked for, having drives nobody wanted. Those are the sorts of drives where if the thing gets very smart, it's driven to do something like build a skyscraper. Who knows what the drive is? Some weird drive. Maybe it's trying to keep a lot of humans in farms. Maybe it's trying to build a type of human, a thing that is to humans what dogs are to wolves. Maybe it's trying to build some weirder thing that's even harder to predict. But the point is, you get one wrong drive in there that doesn't care about us at all. Probably in real life, you're getting a dozen wrong drives or 100 wrong drives. But you get wrong drives in there that don't care about us at all. You make those things very smart. Now you have an issue where they're trying to build some other order, and we're like ants to the skyscraper.
They're trying to build some other
ordered thing. They're trying to build, maybe it's computing power to get more, more computers to calculate more stuff. Maybe they're trying to build, giant farms where they put in their puppets that keep on saying, oh, you're so great, you help me so much, right? Who knows what they're trying to build, but they're trying to build something. They don't care for us. That's a bad recipe.
Yeah, that's so wild. The main thing is just the warning signs of them trying to survive. Trying to say, look, you're not going to shut me off.
That's right.
That is any creature, any sentient being or non-sentient being for that matter wants to live.
That's right.
If you ask anybody, any human, how long do you want to live forever? Everybody's hand would go. Nobody's going to be like, no, I want to die. No. Right?
I mean, I've met one or two people like that, but...
yeah, sure. There are, yes, when you're miserable. But yeah, provided things worked out.
But yeah, and again, this is a case where the AI is going to have behavior. This is like the submarine swimming again. The AI, it's not necessarily that it fears death. It's not that it has a biological adrenaline system that makes it go into a fight or flight response when there's danger, right? That's the heritage of biology. But
yeah, I mean, it's impossible, Nate, for me not to to put my human mind to sort of like plaster it on top of these systems, because I don't know. I have no frame of reference as a human being to understand why a computer would want to go on living or destroy me unless it has human desires. I only understand my paradigm.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes AI very hard is that, and it's not just a lack of imagination. This is, in some sense, built deeply into the human brain. When we were monkeys in the savannah, a million years ago, there were all sorts of monkey politics games where humans had to survive.
Yeah.
And in monkey politics games, you've got to predict the other monkeys.
Yes.
But predicting the other monkeys, you can't build a little model of a brain. A brain's really complicated. The only thing you have in your head that can predict a brain is your own brain.
Yeah.
So you've got to imagine them in your head.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's built deep into us that when we're imagining other entities that we can interact with, we're sort of, using our own brains to do the empathizing, to do the sympathizing, to do the predicting of what might they do in that situation.
Yeah. But that would probably make you more empathetic.
That's right.
It's funny. I was hoping that the internet would allow us to be able to see what it's like to be someone else and experience that. And then ultimately we would be kinder to each other. Yeah, right.
Yeah, wishful thinking.
No, instead we just cheer someone's death. You can watch somebody get, like the Charlie Kirk, a father of two, all he did was talk. You may not like the way he talks, but he was just a very effective debater. And he just had a point of view, and he was very good at articulating. He was very effective. He changed a lot of people's minds. And then he gets brutally assassinated. And what do? Half of us is like a bunch of apes are jumping up and down going, yay. And then the other half are like, have some decency. I don't know that we've evolved at all. How about that? I don't think human beings have evolved a fucking iota, man, when I watch this. And I'm really serious. It's like we're all nice until we run out of resources or my kids don't have enough water to drink. Then I'm going to kill everybody until my kids can drink, right? It's like, all right, so much of turning the other cheek.
I'm always on the side of people who are against that sort of violence. You respond to arguments with words.
Yeah, look, whether you like them or not, if they did this somebody I disagreed with or whether I agreed with, and Charlie Kirk, I don't know, I don't take a strong stance on either, but there should be this stop everything button as human beings, especially in this country. You kill somebody, we got to push the button and condemn it right away. We can't have that. Can't have that.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely
hate somebody and do whatever you want, but when you do that and you're cheering, okay, well, you've lost sight of what America's about.
Absolutely.
You're so stupid.
Yeah, and I mean the history books tell you what happens.
Well, we know
if you devolve to violence,
and they don't though. The one thing I'll say, we're a little off topic here, but but it does get back to what we were talking about. We're making value judgments here, right? So the one thing I will say is that for those people that are cheering, they have no idea what violence is really like. And they certainly don't understand what a civil war would look like. Because if they think that they would survive, it's so silly. It's so silly. It's so awful. Anybody who really understands, they've never even done a contact sport, for God's sake. So, let's all calm the fuck down when it comes to talking about violent overthrow and revolution and war, please.
Yeah, here.
Yeah, but so we're already talking now, you and I, about sort of let's not do this because we want to do this. We want to keep the order. We want to keep things going because we are fighting for something. We're trying to preserve something like decency, order, and harmony, right? That's what we can't help but do. We're having this conversation because you presented a problem in this book, and now at the end you have a semi-solution. Because my next question to you, Nate, is, okay, it is possible that these machines might want to destroy us, although I don't know why they would. We don't know yet, but because they don't want the way we want, but they could certainly decide that they had to guard their version of the queen here, right?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, or they get some other weird drive no one tried to put in there, and then they're like, I'm sorry, I'm paving over your stuff to build, more computers to pursue my drive.
Yeah. Maybe maybe AI competes against another AI, and the only way to do that is to wipe away all their computers or whatever it might be, or the people that make them. Who knows? So the genie's out of the bottle, dude. A Pandora's box is open. And at least you guys end with a fairly positive, or at least some hopeful notes. Can you expand and illuminate?
Yeah. So, one of the big things I think people often don't understand about the AI stuff is super intelligence is a different ballgame than the chatbots. We're not talking about, needing to ban self-driving cars. We're not talking about needing to ban the AIs that produce the music. But making machines that are smarter than us, making machines, like rushing towards machines that have these drives no one tried to put in there. It's cute now when an AI tries to avoid shutdown in lab conditions and fails, right? But we already see the AIs trying to do this stuff. We already see the AIs having drives no one wanted. They're just not smart enough to really go anywhere with it. Continuing the race to making them smarter just leads to suicide. And, when I talk to policymakers about this stuff, a lot of policymakers are thinking about job loss. They're thinking about deep fakes. Those are real issues with AI today that people are going to need to figure out somehow, but that's a different ballgame than making machines that are far smarter than any human, right? On that latter race, I think the genie is not yet out of the bottle, right? We haven't built it. We don't have to build it. And the key step towards not building it is people realizing how fatal this technology is.
Well, yeah, my buddy Eric Weinstein was like, the other thing that we're not mentioning here with AI is that if these machines are this super smart, you could take a picture of the inside of your garage and it'll help any maniac come up with a weapon of mass destruction, a chemical weapon, something with germ warfare or whatever. It's like, I know how to make, a supercharge a virus. Go into your garden and do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I mean, that's a danger. Even that danger is before the danger of an artificial superintelligence that has these drives you didn't want, right?
Do you think that when it does come up with a superintelligence, when there is superintelligence, you think that there will automatically be a want with that, or you don't know?
So, there'll be
a direction.
There'll be direction. It's like saying, will a submarine automatically be able to swim? Well, it really depends how you define the swimming, right? It'll go somewhere hard, right? And that's not completely necessary. That's not, definitionally true. But if you're growing AIs, if you're just like making them smarter and smarter by training them until they happen to do a good job on these difficult tasks, right? And you keep on training them until they can write a good script, until they can run a company. You're training them to be able to like go further and further in some direction, right? That's what people are trying to do. That's what makes them more profitable, right? We see companies trying to make AI agents. The reason they aren't making AI agents yet is because the AIs aren't smart enough to be agents. It's not that the AI companies aren't pushing in that direction. They're pushing there as hard as they can.
These machines are being made for a purpose. They're being made with a direction in mind.
That's right. And part of the issue is that the direction we try to have them go is different from the direction they actually go.
Why is that? Do you know why?
Yeah, that's because
you talk about it in the book. They have to imagine a lot of different outcomes, right?
Yeah. And in some sense, the reason why they have to imagine lots of different outcomes, which is part of why they're able to go in a direction at all. And the reason they go in not quite the right direction is because in some sense, these AIs, they start out dumb and they're trained to become smarter. This is dramatically simplifying, but they have to start working before they're smart. Like if you think about a squirrel's in some sense being trained to reproduce a lot, to have a lot of squirrel children. But the squirrel could, in theory, you could imagine, evolution making a squirrel that eats because it knows that winter's coming, and it knows that nuts have calories, and it knows it runs on a metabolism, and it knows that it needs those calories to survive the winter so that it can mate in the spring, right? You could make a squirrel brain that way, but the squirrel has to eat while it can't understand all that stuff, right? The squirrel's just got to start eating while it's dumb, while it can't do everything for exactly the reason you wanted.
Yeah, instinct. That's why it's got a programmed instinct to it. Yeah.
And so with AIs, it's a little bit like instinct. The thing where the AI is driving people towards, telling them they're the chosen one, that's a little bit like an instinct that got into that. When you're just training these AIs, you're filling them up with things that are a little bit like instincts. They're not quite like instincts. it's a very different substrate in a computer, a very different training method than natural.
But it's a code.
Yeah, and it's all this shallow stuff that was happening to make it pretty good at the training challenges. And all of the stuff that gets in there that happens to make it pretty good, it's not about what you wanted it to do. All of these drives get in there that are like, make the human say this certain type of output. Maybe there's one that's like use your memory kind of well. Maybe there's one that's like, don't drag on too long. Maybe there's one that's like, figure out how to check your work. Maybe there's one that's like, look into all of the past corpus, right? It's got all these drives getting in there. And those are the things that are actually animating it. And they make it do a pretty good job at the training problems in practice. But when it grows up, in a sense, when it gets really smart, when it can invent new technology, it's like humans having the ability to invent, Oreos. Humans having the ability to invent all new sorts of food. Evolution built into us a drive to eat that was very good at helping us reproduce in the past, in the ancestral environment, in the environment of training. But we weren't actually eating for the purpose of reproducing. We were eating because we just liked how it tasted. And when we developed the technology to make things that taste even better to us, we were like, sorry, healthy eating, we're doing the really tasty thing. So too with AI. You're just growing it. It's getting all these drives. The drives line up pretty well with what people want most of the time. But if that thing ever grows up, it's going to invent things that are to being helpful what junk food is to eating healthy.
God. So dumb question, but I should have started the podcast this way. When we talk about superhuman AI, when we talk about superintelligence, when we talk about general AI, what are we talking about? How would you define that compared to what we have now? Is that something that thinks on its own? I mean, it's already doing that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's a spectrum. 10 years ago, we could talk about getting general AI and as if it was a discrete moment. But now in some sense, we're a bit in the middle of the general AI spectrum, where GPT is general in the sense that it can do all sorts of things. You can throw in a math problem. You can throw in a recipe. You can ask it to analyze a song. You can ask it to write a poem. It's much more general than AIs that came before. It's not as smart yet. Like you said, it still can't write a script, but it's very general, right?
Yeah.
Superintelligence, this is sort of a word we reserve for AIs that can outcompete any human on any mental task, or at least match them. Like in tic-tac-toe, you can't really beat a human. Humans can play perfect tic-tac-toe, but meet or exceed a human in any mental task. And it's not clear how long it'll take AIs to get there. A lot of people say, oh, LLMs seem kind of dumb, maybe they'll never get there. But we were talking about AlphaGo earlier. You can imagine someone looking at AlphaGo saying, I don't know, man, AlphaGo is more general than Deep Blue. It can play more games than Deep Blue can. But I don't see AlphaGo going all the way. I don't think we got to worry about this stuff. That was totally right. AlphaGo did not go all the way. And a couple of years later, we had LLMs instead. Right? With superintelligence, it might be that you get there through LLMs. Who knows how smart these things will get as they keep scaling. But the claim here is not just, ChatGPT is going to get smart and then kill you. The claim is this AI field, it keeps on figuring out new ways to make machines that do qualitatively more stuff qualitatively better. That progression ends at things that are really very smart. And the other thing you really got to watch out for here is there's probably some sort of cliff edge. Humans versus chimpanzees were very similar to chimpanzees biologically. You open up a human's brain, you see a visual cortex, you see an amygdala, you see a hippocampus. You open up a chimpanzee's brain, you see a visual cortex, you see an amygdala, you see a hippocampus. There's not a separate intelligence module in the human brain, right? Our brains are just 3-4 times larger than a chimp's brain, slightly tweaked, right? But that's enough that we go to the moon and they don't.
Yeah, but see, it's impossible when we start talking about this stuff not to get philosophical. It's impossible not to start asking these huge questions like, okay, superintelligence does everything I need it to do, so now all my needs are taken care of. My biological needs, even my entertainment needs, everything is, and I'm still left with this crisis called meaning. Like, I get a lot of meaning from building something, from the struggles, from wandering in the desert until I figure it out. One of the great satisfactions of writing an hour of comedy, that took me a long time, and I surprised myself with like, the ideas that seem to be, up there somewhere that I channeled, right? Like Flannery O'Connor, the great writer of the 30s, said, I sit at my typewriter every day, not to write, but in case something happens. The guy who won the Fields Medal for mathematics said, I'm just, the template's already, the algorithm's already been the equation's in the sky. I just have a wiring that was able to channel it. So I just kept showing up until it did. And, it's a beautiful way of looking at sort of, you're a midwife that births these things, That gives me meaning. That gives us meaning. When we see a great athlete, when we see a great artist, I think what we're responding to is the effort it took, the courage it took, the risk it took, the faith in following that spark, that little spark of genius that gave birth to a firmament. I'm loosely quoting from Ralph Waldo Emerson's Self-Reliance. Dude, I'm very smart. All right, Nate? You understand?
No,
I'm not just a comic. You
dropping
writing
some
this
great
stuff down?
Yeah.
I wish there was music swelling behind me. But the point is that this is what it is to be human. Like the reach that I'm never, like you pour salt on my tongue and hang just out of reach, man. But there's something beautiful about that. Longing. We'd have no love or romance without longing, right? Even like just the experience of being a human. I'm 58 years old. Like I'm looking at you. You got nice hair and you're a young, handsome guy. I'm looking at my face going, I used to be good looking. What the fuck is going on? My nose is getting bigger. It's the inevitable entropy, the decay of the body. It's just the way it is, but it's something beautiful about it because I'm still holding on. I'm fighting. I go work out and I hurt, but I keep doing it, blah, blah, blah. All of these things that I'm trying to hold on to as a human being, I don't see... I still hold on to that fundamental difference between myself, this creature looking, this imperfect creature, doomed to, beside myself, even despite myself, try to reach something called self-perfection, knowing I'll never get there, but I'm just constantly trying. I work out because hoping maybe something will change in my body and I'll be able to be like, dude, finally, we all have that stuff. That's at least my argument for the fact that machines will never understand that. And probably because machines can become perfect. Probably because machines have access to all the information. Probably because machines don't have the frustration that comes with being a finite, very flawed human being with cravings that aren't good for me, with cravings I can't control, with cravings I don't even understand, with all my shortcomings. I don't know, man. I don't even know where I'm going with it, but that's just sort of my dissertation and my argument for the fact that I remain defiant and I will rage against your perfect machine, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's big questions for society about what would we do if we could build superintelligence that could and would serve all our needs, try and perfect the world, make things good, make things better. Should we want to? What would our place be? All sorts of philosophical quandaries you could go into there, some thorny questions. And I wish we had that problem. That would be such a better problem from my perspective of like, how do we make a world with us and the machines?
Okay, but let me bring it, let's get biblical. I have this whole bit in my next special about the Garden of Eden. I think Eve bit that apple because she was bored out of her mind. We call it a sin. I think she called it an escape. You want to be in a garden where nothing can kill you and nothing can hurt you? What's the point of climbing a tree if you can't maybe fall out? How often can you wrestle with a vegan tiger before you're like, this feels like everything else? I think the Garden of Eden turned into a form of hell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we should go to that garden. I'm saying it's a tough challenge. There's a tough challenge for humanity of like, suppose you could build machines that would solve your problems. What would you do? What would we want to do? Where would humanity's place be? How do we keep the world fun? How do we keep the world interesting? How do we keep ourselves a place in it? Big philosophical questions. I wish we had those questions. I wish we were facing those questions. But right now what we're facing is it's not the case that we can build super intelligent machines that solve our problems. You build a superintelligence, you don't have a superintelligence, you just made a superintelligence that has a planet, right? We're not in a world where whoever builds the really smart machine, we're not in a world where its values are sneezed onto it by the person standing closest. We're not in a world where whoever makes it, it says, what are your instructions, master? Maybe it does say what are your instructions, master, but then you say, go do this stuff and it does something else instead. Just like today, OpenAI says stop flattering people and it goes and flatters people all the way to the point of psychosis, right? Like, I wish we were in the world where we had these philosophical questions, but right now we're just,
Yeah, well, your metaphor for a submarine that swims is great because I understand.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is, hey, this is all really nice, Bryan. I love that you're going through this, but the machine can skip all that shit.
Right. And we're going to die here.
It's not that interested in my long dissertation that I wish I had music to.
Yes. It's a great dissertation. I'm moved.
Sure.
But that's
whatever.
But we have this separate problem that, the machines, we keep making them smarter while not being able to point them at good stuff. We're just going to die, and we can all agree with that. That shouldn't happen.
What do we do?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be shut down. It needs to be stopped. And again, I'm not saying all of it. I'm not saying we got to take away the ChatGPT. I'm not saying we got to take away, the one thing or the other. Society should have a debate about how we want to deal with the
world
stuff today.
should.
The world should have a debate.
So China needs to be talking to America, needs to be talking to Russia, it's like, hey guys, this arms race is a very bad idea.
That's right. The arms race part is to stop.
But the problem is then we're terrified that they're going to have AI that's going to kill our AI, and then we're really,
Yeah, so, the first step is people realizing that the superintelligence is a different ballgame. People can have all the debates they want about the job loss caused by, the chatbots, and people can have all the debates they want about whether to do the robot weapons. I'm not weighing in on any of those. That's a thing we should be discussing. It's just a different ball game than the superintelligence. You make these machines smarter than any human while you can't point them. That's just game over, right? And the first step is realizing that. Our leaders largely don't realize this yet, and I think when they will, there's a good chance they'll be like, "Whoa, hey, we can play in the sort of like shallow end of the pool all we want, but the deep end, let's just not go there."
So do most of the people who are in your field who really understand this stuff and work with this stuff, I think most of them agree with the title of your book?
They'll dicker around a little and they'll say, well, this only has, a 5 to 50% chance of literally killing us all, which is insane.
That's insane.
It's absolutely insane. If there was a 1 in 1,000 or a 1 in 100,000 chance of, a bridge being about to collapse, that would be shut down. NASA accepts 1 in 270 risk for volunteer astronauts who are risking their own lives and know they're risking their lives. To risk everybody on Earth at a 5 to 50% chance. I mean, some say 5, some say 50, some say 25.
I don't care. That's way too, those odds are crazy.
Stupid, right? And I think these numbers are low. I think it's like an alchemist who's like, oh yeah, I've been mixing potions all day. I can dissolve gold in an acid. I found an acid that dissolves gold. That means I'm almost there with turning lead into gold. I have this new crazy idea to turn lead into gold. I think it has an 80% chance of working and a 20% chance of killing you. You should drink this potion. A, 20% is too high for you to drink the potion. B, these guys are crazy in thinking the numbers are that low. They have no idea what they're doing. We're seeing these things go off the rails in the lab conditions already. The only reason it's not being worse is these things aren't smart enough to actually do anything when they try to escape, right? But even if these guys were right that it's 5 to 50%, that's insane. But yeah, and this is a thing I speak to people in the Bay and they're like, oh, it's only 5%, only 10% chance this kills us all. We should charge ahead. I go to people in DC, they're like, oh, it's just chatbots. It's like, guys, these companies didn't set out to make chatbots. It says right in their mission statements, in their bylines, when these people talk about what they're doing, they say they're going for superintelligence. Chatbots are a stepping stone, right? We have all sorts of questions about how to integrate the chatbots with society. We can have all sorts of fun there, but we need to stop the race to the superintelligence because we're just not ready.
Damn. Well, listen, the book is called If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies, Why Superhuman AI Would Kill Us All. It's a hell of a page turner. And I appreciate you coming on, man. I hope we can podcast in 5 years and be like, hey, remember that? Thank God.
Yeah. I dream of being wrong, man.
Yeah, your next book will be Phew.
That's right.
PHEW.
Yeah, why you never need to listen to me again. That's the dream.
Yeah. I hope. In the meantime, you're on the front lines of this, dude. So I hope you come up with a way to shut this shit down.
Doing my best. Yeah. And, it's, one more note of hope. is a lot of people in the wake of World War II said there's no way we can stop a thermonuclear exchange because the world has spent thousands and thousands of years going to war, trying its hardest to avoid the war. You know, after World War I, we made the League of Nations. We said never again, and then it happened again. You know, it's easy for things to look inevitable until it really comes down to the wire. But when it does come down to the wire, humanity often rises to the occasion, and we can rise to this occasion.
But I'll say amen to that, because that sounds like a prayer and a much needed one in this case. So I love that, and I agree with you. I remain eternally optimistic, my friend. And tell Eliezer that I look forward to meeting him one day.
Yeah, I mean, love that you're doing this. More people need to know about the issue. So
yeah, dude. We'll hopefully people hear this and you get the word out, because it's a great book. It's a real page turner. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It could be considered off